UFO Bros.
Hey everyone, it's Giorgio Tsoukalos from Ancient Aliens, and you're experiencing UFO Bros TV.
Yeah, that's right. UFO Bros TV, we're back.
We're back, finally.
Back.
From a long hiatus.
Yeah. It's been a couple weeks, Joe.
Yeah, it has.
Well, we've been working on some projects, so we're not really all that sorry.
We're getting stuff done.
We're getting stuff done. We got some bigger projects in the plans, and also we're going to be in have some awesome new guests coming on the show.
Oh,
which
that's
is
exciting.
Super duper. And like today, we've got this amazing duo that we're going to be talking about, and I want you to just kind of talk about them a little bit, Joe, because I think you're kind of the one that set up this awesome interview, so I want you to introduce them, and then we'll just go right into the interview. So, Joe, tell us a little bit about your interaction, who they are, just some names, and then we can just have them on the show. How does that
Absolutely.
sound?
Let's get
Okay,
started.
because they're already here.
They're here. They're waiting.
Okay.
All right, guys, listen up. I got in contact with a band called Beauty in the Breakdown. Awesome band. I watch them all the time. I love them. We have Chastity and Ian with us today, and they have their stories. Hi, guys. How you guys doing?
Hi. How's everybody doing?
We are great. We're so
Very
excited
great.
to have you guys on the show. As soon as Joe had mentioned that you guys had, maybe some interest, we were like, yes, let's do it. I was like, I'm so down. I want to know all about it. So why don't you guys just take a second and let the listeners know more about you, the band, and then just tell us, like, what happened about this this sighting you guys had.
Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So we're Beauty in the Breakdown. Actually, Ian is the guitar player. I'm the singer and percussionist. And we're actually 5. And so there's 2 of the 5 here today with us. And Ian and I actually met through playing music in other bands before this. We were in hard rock bands, as a matter of fact, before we moved into the Beauty in the Breakdown world. And from that point on, actually, when we at first met, him and I kind of came together through our love of UFOlogy, if you can believe that. I mean, we were just like, the minute he started talking about it, I was like, wait, hold on a second.
Oh, that's the best feeling. That's the best feeling.
Yeah. I'm like, wait, hold on. Stars in my eyes. And
the truth is out there, guys.
Yeah. And through all of that, we've had an incredible run so far with our band, and everything's been going great. As a matter of fact, we have a new single coming out on July 7th called Firebird, and we're really excited about that. And so through just this creation process and being a part of this group together, we've had many experiences, as you can imagine. And one very important, incredible experience happened to be Ian and I seeing a UFO right before our very eyes.
Oh,
and
crazy. I'm getting goosebumps right now. Hairs are standing up because Joe and I are like, we want to have this experience. So tell us what
it was like. What'd you feel?
Happened.
There's a smell.
I know, right?
Some people do say there's like weird smells, but anyway.
Yeah, it's sometimes also typically with Sasquatch sightings.
Yes.
That's as well. So, and sometimes people say that can be an interdimensional experience. So, to each their own.
Yeah.
It's true. It's also with like in the paranormal, ghost sort of world. Same thing. There's smells. There's smells,
and there's hot or cold. Like they feel real cold.
Anyway, so back to you guys.
Yeah. So for me, it was one of those things. Again, like I've toured the world. I've also played percussion with Duran Duran, and so I've been to like so many different places in the world. And every time I'm in a different place, I'm always looking in the sky. Like I'm an avid amateur astronomer. I'm consistently always reading. Eric von Däniken, Graham Hancock,
Yes.
David Wilcock. Yes. These are just all my heroes, aside from like my music world. And so everywhere I've been, I'm like always looking to the skies, constantly like, give me something, give me something.
Oh, that's what we do.
You know?
We're like the dorks that are like, why are those two guys like staring at the sky for?
We'd be driving like Ace Ventura, both of us hair out.
There's nothing weird about that at all.
It's true though. Just to just to add on to what you're talking about. It's true. If you don't look up, you don't see.
It's true. It's absolutely true, and it's crazy because I've seen the space station so many times, thinking that perhaps it was something. Because on a clear night, you can sometimes see the space station from where we live. I'm like, is that? Oh, it's just the space station circling around the globe. And then I pull up my star chart and I'm like, yeah, it's a space station.
I don't think people actually, look in the skies enough.
No.
Something that's there, daytime, nighttime, especially on clear nights. I mean, you'd be surprised, some of the things that you might see.
I know I think we all just keep our eyes forward, our heads down, and we just keep moving, getting from the one place to the next, the one obligation to another.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, again, because I'm an avid, like I said, an amateur ufologist and researcher and journalist in my own right, my own little world, and so is Ian. I mean, Ian's father was a very famous private occult investigator who actually used to work with Linda Moulton Howe. And so,
that's awesome.
Linda used to stay at Ian's house all the time.
No. Okay, can I stop you right there?
Yeah.
Do you guys know my theory on Linda Moulton Howe?
No. Please tell.
My theory is that she's like Bigfoot. She's everywhere but nowhere, totally elusive. I cannot find that bitch anywhere I go to meet her, except Contact in the Desert. Joe and I, we were hanging out at Giorgio Tsoukalos' booth for a little bit, and we were leaving, and she was walking because she had to go to a panel and she was in a hurry, but I ran up to her and I was like, oh my God, I love you. I watch your stuff. I read your stuff. I've emailed you. I tweeted you. You liked it. Did you tweet me back? Give me a hug. She's like, I got to go. I'm like, give me a hug. And she's like, I got to go. I'm like, okay, just give me, thank you. Okay, bye. That was my interaction with her.
Couldn't even get a camera out.
So to hear that she actually does sleep.
Yes, she does. And
She's
she
not a
eats
vampire.
too. Yeah, and she eats. Actually, Ian and I had the pleasure of being able to have dinner with her not too long ago.
What does she eat?
Food.
Yeah.
She doesn't eat like crickets or anything, right? Like it's real food.
All the more to hang
She's
out
not a lizard, or no, a reptilian, right?
Not reptilian.
A
No.
That's what I meant to say, not lizard. Sorry. We have a million lizards around here, so we're thinking lizard. But yes, the reptilians, which I believe she's either one of those or a Bigfoot in some way. But continue your story.
You have to be high up in politics, or major company to actually hold that title, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, but Ian could tell you a little bit about that, actually.
So, kind of beginning, my father being an occult investigator, my childhood was a lot different than any of my other, friends growing up. Moved around a lot. My father worked on the Heaven's Gate case, the mass suicide, and then also Heaven's Gate, Waco, Texas.
Wow.
Waco, Texas case. So those are some that he worked on, and back in the 90s and late 80s, he's on TV quite a bit on Hard Copy, Inside Edition, Geraldo, Roger Hedgecock Show, and the list goes on. So he had a lot of credibility, and he was definitely in the public eye. Did a lot of regular stuff, private investigative work, but his passion and what he was known for was occult investigation. So I was definitely around a lot of off kilter subjects, not only that, but just the books that were in my father's library. It was a whole different world to grow up in. So I think he was actually kind of training me to be a private investigator, at a young age. So
Cool.
That is so cool.
Linda teamed up, and that's when Linda teamed up with your father.
So they both worked on cases together, and she would, when she was in town, come over and come stay. She was a friend of the family, and years later, kind of fast forwarding, my father, ended up passing on. But kind of like you said, you're looking to connect with her, and we kind of had the same approach. What was the event?
We were at Conscious Life Expo.
Yeah, Conscious Life Expo. We knew that she was doing a panel, and literally, not unlike the two of you, waiting outside patiently, and I had to kind of intercept and just real quickly kind of let her know who I was. I hadn't seen her in some years, but we were able to connect. And
she's like, "Come have dinner with us."
Yeah.
We're like, "Yes."
Oh my gosh. She was like, "Get away from me, weird hugging guy." I think.
She probably thought he was Leonardo DiCaprio at first, so.
But no, it was a great conversation. I think it was 2.5 hours of just kicking back and really just opening up, anything and everything, kind of an open forum, of just collection of interests and personal stories.
Yeah, and her thoughts on what she was researching at the time, and some of the stuff that she'd come across and information she was sharing about. At the time, she was talking about a lot of the stuff that was occurring on the moon, and some of the like Richard C. Hoagland stuff that she was like talking about. And now her new show it's really got my mind blown now that she's been doing on Gaia about all of these like soul harvesting theories. I was like, woo! And she has this like really eerie music in the background. Like my heart starts pounding when I actually watch it. I'm like, woo! So so that kind of gives you kind of a brief synopsis of kind of like our passions, where we come from, people whom we've been connected with in this world, in this field. It's like I said, it's a passion of ours, and so naturally, of course, we would love to have seen anything, just one glimpse, just one shred of evidence. I'm always like,
Yes.
I'm a dreamer, but I'm also a realist in the sense is like, I've had family members like, oh, I've seen ghosts. I'm like, where? Like,
Yeah.
I love it. A photo, anything, and so I'm constantly, a searcher of truth always. And so finally, Ian and I are driving from San Diego to Los Angeles, literally on 4th of July. And so it's kind of like an anniversary to that coming up.
Oh my gosh, yes. Next Tuesday.
Yeah.
This is actually the first time that we've actually told this story kind of, on a forum.
Yeah,
like
we've
this,
never
so.
publicly really disclosed this story.
Yeah.
So this is the
We
first.
are
Honored.
so privileged and honored to be the first, seriously. And we will take great care of this. This is important because when Joe and I have an experience that doesn't include Doritos, farting, and listening to Joe make random sounds at things, we would want people to hear our story too. So go ahead, please tell us what you saw, what you felt, what you smelled.
So we're driving, and it's about 7:00 at night, and the sun is still kind of setting. It hadn't really gotten dark yet. And as we're driving, we're going north on the 5 freeway, and all of a sudden, we both at the same time look up. And it wasn't one of those situations where you're like, is that what do you think that is? It was nothing like that. It was like as instant as knowing the difference between, night and day. I mean, we literally both looked at this thing and we're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. We're like, we knew right then and there, like exactly what it is that we were looking at. And there was actually 4, but I saw 3, he saw 4, 3 orbs that were glowing, like this orange fog that was just surrounding these balls of light. And
Can we back up just for a second?
Go ahead.
Just to jump in. So if anybody who's familiar with the California coastline between San Diego and Los Angeles, we're literally driving on government land. Camp Pendleton. It's an 18-mile stretch of government land that resides right there on the 5.
Right,
below.
that's the place where you find the caution signs. Watch out for the family crossing the street, right?
Totally.
So there's a lot of military testing out there. Sometimes helicopters, jets, that type of thing. And so right there on the campgrounds, there are literally these 2 giant kind of balls that are it's a nuclear plant there. And some people refer
Oh, yes,
to
I called those the big titties when I would drive by them.
it was Dolly Parton, like these red little,
Nipples.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can imagine these giant, gigantic, boobs on the coastline.
That is exactly what they look
Exactly.
like to me anyway, because I have dirty mind, but go ahead.
So kind of continuing on. So these 3 orange orbs are, in a straight line on the horizon, and they are kind of lifting up out of the ocean and kind of going up towards the five. And as they're raising up, in a straight line, and they start to come closer, and by this time, I mean, our mouths are dropped. We're kind of freaking out, but everything's kind of seems like it's kind of
it feels like
happening a
everything
little slow
slowed
motion.
down. Yeah, it felt like everything just slowed, like time and space just was like absent.
So the real point here, where everything kind of kicks in is this straight line where you're seeing three orbs kind of coming towards us. They now change formation and they go into a backwards triangle shape, which is very typical. I mean, we've all seen UFO videos, and the triangular shape is very common. So when it started to happen, it just all the pieces kind of fell in line. Like, I've seen this before. This is very typical. And so
I wasn't that calm by the way. I was freaking out and yelling.
Oh, I would be.
I literally pulled the sunroof open to the car, and I stood up in the freeway to put my head up and look at these things, because they were literally like 50 feet above us.
Yeah,
right?
about 6 stories
they
above
were
our car.
super close.
So these orbs coming at us in a reverse triangular shape. So 2 in the front and 1 in the back, going south down the 5 as we're heading north, and these things start to go up and closer to our car, and that's when a 4th one just basically cloaked out of nowhere right in the front, and it became a full diamond shape.
Whoa!
Geez.
4 different, 4 different orange, as bright as the sun.
Bright orange orbs. Yeah.
So that opens up. They pop. That one just pops up right in the front, and then the one in the rear and the one on the right hand side, they make I like to say a military type of move, something that, a calculated move that to me showed intelligence.
Wow.
So the rear and the one on the right, they basically flip locations. So one takes over the back, and the one that was in the back shoots over to the side and basically takes over each other's position where they were. And they do a full flip, and they cover, I mean, it's hard to say, but maybe, 150 yards in a matter of like 2 seconds. And it was very, very quick. And
Wow.
So that, not only, are we seeing this triangular shape, we're seeing one that's popping out of, maybe another dimension, or, basically popping into our line of sight where we can actually view this thing, which becomes 4. But now we also have some kind of, something showing it some sort of intelligence where they are flipping places with each other. Now these are continuing up and over, and if you want to take over from here, we're opening the moonroof and you're starting to pop your head up.
Yeah, and I just was, for me, like, as Ian's like watching all of this like configuration happening, I'm just fixated on like the one in the front, because I just wanted to see anything like emerge out of this gold ball of light. And it wasn't like, you see planes in the sky, you see like red blinking lights or white blinking lights, or you could tell like there's
helicopters,
yeah,
planes.
you could tell it's like one of ours basically. This was nothing like that. This was like, I felt as if I were in a dream. I felt like this is something like I had always imagined I would see in my own mind, and then to see it physically in front of me was just
different than what
I
you
was
expected.
frozen. I was literally frozen, yet
Interesting.
yet panicked, yet so completely clear. I felt very, very clear.
Can I sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to ask Ian that comment you just made.
Of course.
Can you expand on that?
Which one? I'm sorry.
That you it was unexpected is I believe is what you said.
I mean, I guess it's like, the first time that you do anything, that you imagine it a certain way in your head, and then when you actually go through it, it ends up turning out to be something different, or something happens that you didn't expect. And even though there was kind of these typical, like I was talking about the typical shape and everything, at the point you don't really believe that you're seeing this at this moment. It's breathtaking. It's something that you like you're saying, you look at the skies, you want to see it, you hope that someday you can, and then it's right there in front of your face, and your reactions aren't what you think they're going to be.
They're really not.
I can't believe that we didn't think to, grab a phone and take video of this.
Yeah.
We were in such awe that we didn't even think to do that.
I just wanted to be so in the moment. Like I just wanted to see
Mesmerized.
as much of it as I could at that moment. Like I just wanted to take it all in. I was just like again like fixated on just seeing anything beyond what we were seeing. Like if it was going to become more complex.
Kind of like, would you say paralyzed in a way? Like paralyzed with just overwhelming.
Just in awe and what's going to happen next?
Yeah, what's going to happen next exactly, and that's what gets really weird, right? After they kind of go away. So
we're kind of at this point the moonroof is open, Chas's head is out the front. I'm driving. I'm looking up, and it's weird because there's cars around us, but we're not really focused on merging over into somebody else, or it's like we know they're there, but we're just so fixated up in the sky. And as these things start to go over, like I said, they were about 5-6 stories above our cars. I mean, these things are crazy close.
They're super close.
And there's these orange orbs that are going over the car, and I notice, and we talked about this afterwards, but there's this electronic kind of milky kind of a haze, like a fog, that's like a thin layer going around the orange orbs themselves, and we're looking straight into these things, these energy balls. There's no physical shape. I'm looking for some kind of a blinking or anything.
There's no blinking.
It's a solid glowing orb with this electronic kind of milky haze, thin layer that's kind of going around it and kind of swirling, almost like a kind of like a ball that you would kind of shake up or whatever, and that has like oil in it or something.
I wanted to ask you guys, and Chastity, could you describe like what was their movement like, the balls?
Their movement was very steady, like for me at least. I mean, with the exception of Ian seeing them shift positions, but it was really, really steady. Like they came in a very how should I say? They were in a very fixed. They were in a very fixed position. Yes, they were, with lack of a better word. But they were in a very fixed position. So it was, for a moment, I was almost like, are these all part of a bigger ship? But it didn't appear to be that. Because that's what it looked like at first, because they were in that like diamond formation, like Ian was saying. But as they got closer, I was like, no, these are separate vehicles. Is what it appeared to me. Wouldn't you agree?
I knew they were separate beforehand.
I thought they might not have been. Again, you're just, it's coming at you. You're like,
It's funny because we're together, but we're experiencing things a little bit differently, and we're viewing things and looking at it at different spots, of the formation differently. So it's kind of funny.
But what gets really weird is that they've eventually, like, I'm staring at them like as far as I can see until they get about maybe.
Well, after they're going over the car, they end up going back over the ocean as they're heading south.
Yeah, and then they were just gone. They were just like poof, disappeared. Like and they didn't rocket away. They just they just vanished.
Kind of rewinding a little bit, before as they're above the car, these things start kind of cloaking in and out. Just like the one appeared out of nowhere, these things are cloaking in and out, and they're kind of like. Almost like a switch is getting shot. Gone, pop. Now it's back. Gone, pop. Now it's back. And it's a clean, cloak. It was kind of like almost like a, like a staticky TV type of an effect. And pop, it's gone. And then pop. Now it's back. So these things are cloaking in and out above our car as they're going south.
So let me ask you this. When they left, did it look as though they just blinked out, or did it look as though it was like a quick acceleration, or did it just disappear? Can you kind of describe that?
They were just gone. There's no direction. They didn't just shoot off and into the horizon.
I was hoping to see something like that.
Did they dim? Did they dim at all?
They didn't dim. They just were just appeared.
From bright to not.
Exactly.
Okay, because I was as you were,
It's like they dematerialized.
Yeah, they dematerialized, but it was, kind of like how they cloaked out is kind of how they just left.
And you have to pardon me, at least speaking for my part. This is the first time I've actually told this story out like this.
Right
so
now.
so if I'm kind of skipping back and forth,
far, no, you guys are doing great. The story is fantastic. We're just curious, because as you guys are talking, I'm thinking, my skeptical brain goes, well, it couldn't have been flares then, because
No,
right?
because it would be a smoke trail.
It'd be a smoke trail, and then they dim, and then they drop.
Yeah.
They don't.
No, those are all really great questions, especially the fact that we're going over military land. I grew up in San Diego for quite a while. Born and raised, and I've been living in LA ever since. I've traveled that freeway hundreds of times, and I've never seen anything like it. Over that. I mean, like I said, I've seen Apache helicopters. I've seen F-16s. I've seen hovercrafts out in the ocean that are doing amphibious, from sea to land, and then dropping off, GIs right on the beach doing training. You see a lot of different stuff. This is completely different than anything I ever saw. I've seen flares before. They always have an upward kind of trajectory, and then there's this slow arc. And I think from the space, where we initially saw them to where they left, I think they had. I mean, this whole experience, to kind of put it in perspective.
They didn't look like they were going anywhere.
Yeah, how long did it take? How long was the experience?
The experience, I'm guessing, is probably about 40 to 45 seconds, 40 seconds, somewhere in there.
Sounds about right.
That this is happening. It's just keeps going and going and going, and something like this, 40 seconds feels like an eternity.
It did feel like
That's what I
and
thought.
even when they were going over us, it felt like things were happening in slow motion.
And to
Time
get
stood still.
It did, and to get to kind of take that to another level for a second, we actually called a friend of ours right away, whom has also had
this is another part of the story.
Who has had her own experience, and so I called her right away. I'm like, oh my God, you're not gonna believe what I saw. You're not gonna believe what we saw. We experienced. We're freaking out. We had to reach out to you, and so she starts asking us, well, what time did you see it? And we're going back.
Kind of like how we're talking now. She's asking us questions. What's going on?
She's like,
blah,
what
blah, blah.
time was it when you saw them? We're like, it was this time. And at the time, I was very specific because I knew I was right in the moment, And then come to find out, the next day when we talked to her, when we called her and she called us, we checked. She's like, we need to line up our phone times to make sure we didn't lose time.
Let's just for 1 second, because it started from MUFON, going on to MUFON to go.
No, I was going to get to that part. Yeah, I didn't want to skip around. I'm trying to keep it.
Yeah, Ian, jeez.
Get out of my story.
Let her talk for no, I'm just...
And so we lined up the time codes from when I called her and when she called me, and there was literally 2 minutes of time missing between us. And it didn't make any sense because when I called her timeline from when I called her was 2 minutes past from the act. So for instance, if I call you, our time should line up. It should say I called you at 9 o'clock. If I called you at 9 o'clock, you would get an incoming call at 9 o'clock, right?
Right.
That's not what it was when I called her. When I called her, it was 9 o'clock, but she received the phone call at 9:02.
Wow.
So there was 2 minutes, literally 2 minutes of missing time between me calling her and her actually receiving the phone call. Is that the weirdest thing ever?
Let me ask you guys this, by the way. This is Emmett, by the way, just in case you didn't know.
Yeah, Mr. Talks a lot.
So, would it be... It sounds as though... Okay, this is what I want to ask. When you were having the experience, even though you said it was only a few seconds, how long did it feel like?
They said an eternity. Did you hear?
Well, I know, but when you say time slows down, some people say, well, it lasted only 30 seconds, but it felt like 2 hours. I was just wondering, did it feel like, a few
2
seconds,
minutes?
or did it feel longer? Tell us more about that.
I wouldn't go as far as to say it felt like hours or anything like that. There was nothing to that effect whatsoever. I mean, it definitely felt at least speaking for me, when I was viewing it and watching it, it felt like things were kind of happening. It's kind of like, okay, perfect example. You know when you're having a dream and you're trying to run, but you're like going, you're going as fast as you can, but you're like
going nowhere.
Ah!
Yeah, or when you arrive naked in your junior year first period class, the English class, and you forgot to read your book report. I have that dream all the time.
Hello.
It's true.
Yeah, and so that to me is the best way I can describe it, because it felt like exactly that, where things are happening fast, but at the same time it's like I can't get there fast enough. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like the best way I can describe it. So for me, yeah, it felt like perhaps like it could have been minutes, but it really wasn't, there's no way it could have been at that point. But
okay.
It didn't feel like a half hour or anything extended like that. I mean, would you agree? Like,
no, it did seem like, very dreamlike. It happened in slow motion. I'm doing the best I can to calculate, how long did it actually take?
Yeah.
And that's the best, guesstimate is, 40, roughly 40 seconds, something like that. It just, I think when you're experiencing, like I was saying, when you experience something like that, you're not expecting it. You're kind of in shock.
I felt so special. Seriously. I was like, they chose me. Yeah.
I've been
awesome.
Initiated. We want to be initiated.
Yeah, why can't something like that happen to us?
Probably because
Totally.
you're always complaining or doing
not
something.
complaining.
No, I'm usually complaining, actually. Yeah.
Except I do not want to experience a fire in the sky moment.
No probing.
Please, no.
Unless it's on this show.
No milk in the eye.
Yeah, no, thank you. And no weird sticky sheet that sucks down. Oh, God. That's like my worst nightmare. Being abducted by aliens and then potentially suffocated. That's terrible.
Yeah. Good night.
Anyway.
Yeah, so exactly. And so, so that part was really, really odd and my friend kept telling me, bringing it up to me like days after. She's like, I really think you should, try and, investigate this phenomenon of us missing 2 minutes of time. And it was like really messing with my head for the first couple of weeks. Like, what the hell? Why would we be missing time? And then finally I just kind of put it behind me because I didn't feel weird. I didn't have any kind of like anomalous things happen to me. He didn't. So I just kind of put that part behind me, but we just kind of chalked it up to like, that was odd. And so from that point on, to kind of make Ian and I, after we got off the phone with her, we're like, we have to report this to MUFON, like now, while it's hot, fresh. So we got into contact with MUFON right away, and it turns out that there were at least another 20 people that recorded and accounting for the same kind of experience.
There's 3 different accounts down in San Diego. Just, roughly, an hour after we had, this sighting, kind of was just checking to see, had anyone else seen anything. I was so, overtaken by this experience that, that was the first place, that I had thought to go was this, I was aware of this online community. I had never gone on MUFON before, but I certainly knew about it. And so going on there, we're looking at, the different sightings, and people are seeing 3 different orbs in a triangular shape.
All the way up the coast of California, as a matter of fact, and even some in Arizona. The same thing on the same night.
So
throughout like a 12-hour period, right?
Wow. Now, just really quick, was it you? I thought Chastity said 30 people, and then Ian, you said 3 accounts.
No, 3 different accounts,
In
but
San Diego,
each account
so.
had multiple people.
Gotcha.
So
Okay. Just want to be sure. Okay.
clear that.
But you're saying just in San Diego, but I was saying
Yeah,
we
I'm
saw
saying San Diego.
we saw reports not just in San Diego. That's why I said 20, because there was like some in like San Luis Obispo,
that's right.
and there was some in like Santa Cruz, and there was like a bunch like just up the coast in general that I saw of people that had reported seeing the exact same thing that we had saw
So
as well.
my the curiosity of, well, how long after we saw, after we had this experience, were these other experiences happening?
Right.
And so that, I texted Chas, I had texted our friend. Chas didn't text me back, in the time. I was very impatient. I was like, I want to find out what's the time. And after receiving 2 different times from both of them, I said, you both have to, check your phones. And so Chas called their friend, and they sure enough, their phones were right on the dot, right on the money. I mean, they're all connected to satellite.
Yeah,
the
all our
time's
other
not
phone
gonna lie.
calls. Yeah, all our other phone calls matched up. All our other timeline, like when I called her, match.
But the calls, the day before,
except for that day.
and to kind of, as far as the, to correcting, the time,
Mm-hmm.
it's 8:51 and 8:53. That was the time frame. So that's the 2 minutes that we're talking about. And this is, like we said, 4th of July, summertime, it's still light outside. You can still see, there's still light in the sky. So, that's
not fireworks, obviously. I mean, this clearly doesn't move like fireworks. I mean, I only say that because you're saying we saw something weird in the sky on the 4th of July, so I just want to cover that,
Yeah, that's what.
And I'm not sure, was it on 4th of July?
It was on 4th of July. Yeah.
It was that day that
literally, we were driving back, and that's what kind of blew my mind as well, because it's like, why on the 4th of July of all days? Why that day? Why see? Because that's enough to kind of like. But
even at this time, I'm thinking, with all the light out and everything, no one would be shooting off fireworks. One, while it's still daylight out, you always wait until it's nighttime. Two, over military land.
Yeah, there's how many miles is it?
18 miles.
18 miles of just desolate nothing, and that's where we were driving through.
I'm not sure where the nuclear plant falls within that, but it's it's probably like like the upper third, or even maybe the halfway point, somewhere.
It was for sure 1,000% with everything that I am and everything in my heart. That was absolutely not fireworks. It wasn't some test. It wasn't some like launch of something. It wasn't lanterns. It wasn't any of that. It was 1,000% a flying object that was not associated with anything on this planet that I've ever seen, ever. And this is coming from a person, myself and Ian included, who constantly research. I'm a member of space.com, for crying out loud. I'm like, what's the next vehicle? What's going on? I'm an avid researcher.
I love that.
That's awesome.
Great.
And my own journalist in my own right.
But we're also folks that, when, looking and when we're researching, just not fans of, people that put out disinformation.
Oh, yes.
And putting out, fake videos.
Absolutely.
And, this is so funny.
Absolutely.
I mean, for anything, there's going to be people like that, but I feel like it distracts from real events, things that, people are really talking about. People have these experiences they want to share. And, kind of like us, right now.
Yeah,
we're
it's not something that
going out on a limb and explaining.
It's not something we've ever been like, oh my God, we need to get this story out. It's always been like, oh my God, thank God you were there with me.
It's a very personal experience.
Yeah, thank God I was not alone. Thank God you were there.
See? That's what I'm saying, Joe. I don't want to be alone if I have something like that. I wouldn't be able to handle that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like George Von Tassel in the middle of the Joshua Tree Desert, getting it on.
Yeah, we thought we were going to have contact in the desert, but we saw a lot of satellites.
That's about it.
Turns out, I think.
Were you hanging with Stephen Greer? He was leading. No.
No, we heard him talking out in the desert, though.
Did you?
Yeah.
He seems to be able, or says that they can actually manifest through doing some type of.
You go out there, you have the night vision goggles on, and they kind of have the laser
he said
pointers.
there's some type of
That's
like.
what we did.
We did that.
I've never experienced that. I've just I've just seen videos of it.
Yeah, when we were in Sedona, actually, somebody was trying to get us to come and try that. Apparently, Sedona is a hot spot for it. But when we've been to Sedona multiple times, again, like I said, dreamers, but yet realists, I was like, come on, bring it on. I saw nothing.
Zero.
I saw nothing. And so that experience that we had, that was 100% real, 1,000% something that I've never seen on this planet before. With everything that I am, mind, body, and spirit, that was something not from this plane that I can explain.
And,
I want to. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to say that I've noticed something in your story, which is, I think, interesting, which I've been learning more about, and it seems to be in this case, Joe, which is they were both open to the experience.
Exactly.
There was some part of their brain open to it, and
could be,
because you guys have had, kind of previous being surrounded by it in some way or interested in it in some way. So they were both totally open. They were both in an area where there are not a lot of people by the big titties. And they're having a good time. They're driving down and maybe they're like, now's the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think at any point in time I was, fearful or afraid.
Yeah, I didn't feel like that either.
It didn't feel. Well, for me personally, I didn't feel threatened. Nothing like that.
And you feel that, like if something, if you don't feel right, Joe, that's happened to you before.
I'm a very jumpy person. I mean, if I see somebody
very
standing around a corner, I'm like jumping in the air, So.
Real quick story before I have to let you guys go. But Joe and I, we were on an expedition not that long ago, and we drove all the way out in this, in our Joe's Ford Expedition, and we get there, and we're finally there, and he's like, I feel weird. And I'm like, and? We gotta go. We have to go right now. I'm telling you, this just doesn't feel right.
Oh, yeah, I did.
So I just want to say, that is totally true.
Were you near Skinwalker Ranch?
No, we were actually in
the
Northern California.
Yeah, we're in the
believe it or
triangle.
not. We were just out in the middle of this field, out in the middle of nowhere in Northern California, and it was dark as hell. And
I felt a weird energy, and it wasn't a good feeling, and I'm like, we gotta go for some. We just gotta go.
Yeah.
That was your intuition.
Yeah, you have to
kicking in.
listen to
Yeah.
that. Always listen to that. Your gut will never let you down, ever.
Well, exactly. That's what I tell you.
And I wanted to thank you both,
stupid.
Ian and Chastity, so much for being on
Thank
the
you,
show
guys.
tonight. We're only gonna end your story a little. Oh, not your story, but we're just gonna end the interview a little bit early because we want to play some of your music.
Yes.
So, can you guys give us like a 10-second spot about your music and what people would expect from it and what it sounds like, all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Beating the Breakdown. I mean, the name itself, means, and where our music comes from is about when you find yourself in the darkest part of your life, when you feel like you've hit rock bottom. It's there where you really feel and find beauty in your life. And I think the best and most incredible things happen to you when everything's stripped down and you're at your most vulnerable state. That's where you find out who you truly are, and you become the best version of yourself when you're in that moment. And that's where Beating the Breakdown comes from. And so the music is percussion driven. I play congas, timbales, African percussion djembe is one of my specialties, electronic drums, and it's infused with guitar, bass, live full kit drums, as well as synths, keyboards.
Wait. So, Joe, what song do you have picked?
I picked Satellite.
Okay.
Nice.
That's totally appropriate.
Exactly. It's one of my favorite songs.
All right. Well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna let you guys go. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna have to hang up
Huge
on you
fan.
now, but then I will chat you guys up here when we wrap up the show. So thank you so much, Ian and Chastity. We loved it, and what a fantastic story. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you so much.
You guys,
Thank you for
yes.
having us.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.
All right. That's it. I'm Emmett.
I'm Joe.
And we are the
UFO
UFO
Zero
Bros.
Bros.
You give love a